All right, Ian. Every 4 or 5 months now, we're talking about, or 3 or 4 months, a Pawn Stars segment, the show we know and love, where a graded video game or sealed video games come up for sale. This is now the third time in about a year we have seen this happen. So first, it was the Super Mario Brothers. It was the second print run version, sticker seal, where he wanted $1 million for it. Rich, the investor slash collector, which was famously bought by a trio of folks, and we always said there's probably collusion between WADA and Heritage Auctions, and that probably was part to help jumpstart this. And then they had the three or four sealed. It was like the Parker Brothers, Atari 2600 games, Frogger, Indiana Jones, and there was like 1 or 2 others off the top of my head that there wasn't a sale completed. And that was the son on the show who said at the time that, well, this is kind of crazy right now with the prices. It could be a little out of control. I don't want to get into this. Well, that was thrown out the window in this latest segment with the Pawn Stars graded sealed Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So in this segment, you had a collector come in who said that he mainly collected PS1 games but acquired this from the original owner, who was a regional manager at a Kmart. The sticker was still on it, and he comes in with a 9.4 graded sealed Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the original Nintendo game. And my overview before getting the details is that this is not the cautionary tale that the last Pawn Stars appearance was, where it's like, let's take a step back, let's be careful. Something happened in the past few months between this where it was all balls to the wall. Oh yeah, this is definitely worth tens of thousands of dollars and everything's hot right now. And it was a very FOMO driven segment of Pawn Stars.
Yeah, it seemed like the tone was just very, very different.
We applauded the tone of the last one. We're like, they're being cautionary and being reasonable.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the game, sets because of the title, it set something off, but yeah, there was definitely more excitement, I think, and it seemed a little, I don't know, like I said, it was just weird to see the difference between the last segment and this segment. It
was more of a commercial than even the first segment with Super Mario Brothers.
Yes, it felt like a commercial.
So some of the quotes I got from our pal Chum, who was this the vendor behind the counter. While everyone was playing Super Mario and Donkey Kong, I was playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Not the nitpick, but no one was playing Donkey Kong on the NES. Not many people had that game. It was all about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, everyone played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah, it's a very common game. Almost every kid that had an NES had it. They had a thing on the screen that said it sold 3 million. I don't know if they picked that from Wikipedia or not. I'm like, that's probably accurate. It was probably something like that.
Sure.
We're talking millions of kids had it. And Chum said, I know games are hot right now, especially from the early 90s. Everyone who was playing video games is at this point where they want to start collecting the stuff they grew up with. But that's, well, real quick, Ian, I was questioning the early 90s thing, and I couldn't wrap my mind around that, because early 90s, in your estimation, is not the hotness. It's after that. But
no, I feel like that's already moved on a little bit. I feel like it's probably more like N64, GameCube. I feel
late
like
90s, early 2000s.
Late 90s, early 2000s is where we're at right now.
That's
because all of those people are now 20. I mean, if you
they're where we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, they're 20. They're between 25 and 30. That's what they grew up with. That's what they're buying.
Yeah, so that's weird. And this is why the grading scene is always not about game collecting, because if they were really in on collecting what you grew up with, they would have bought these graded games, I don't know, 10 years ago, because that's when they grew up with it.
Sure.
In 2021, you're a little bit past the prime of the collecting scene with this. It doesn't match up. It never did. And that's what it comes down to, is that it's not game collecting anymore. It's something else.
Right.
It's a diversion, a subset of a subset.
It's investment collecting. I mean, the guy who had this couldn't even pretend to act like he knew anything about the game.
To his credit, he said he's into PS1 stuff. He's probably a little younger. He probably looked like he was in his early 30s.
Sure.
Maybe. But I left a comment on the channel about it's apropos that like Chum is like probably our age. He's probably like 40. He's like, characters in the game like Glassy Joe. Is that his name? And then the seller responds quizzically, I think so. So I just think it's really funny, or case in point that a game worth you're trying to get tens of thousands for, you don't know like almost anything about it. You don't know the first iconic boxer of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Not even tens of thousands. Trying to get 100,000 for this.
So that's where, case in point, that it's not about the games. The game is inconsequential when it comes to seal collecting. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a token. Who made the game's significance, by and large, the history of the game, how the game plays. Some of these collectors would not be able to tell you.
Oh, sure.
They won't. They don't care. They just know, okay, it's hot, it's worth money, it's an investment, and that's it. That's where it begins and ends. And it's a shame. It's a shame because, again, you take sort of the entertainment and artistry out of it entirely. At least with like comic book collecting, that's part of it still. Like the art's right there, the significance is there. But when it comes to these graded games, it's so what's the word? It's hollow. It's almost like you can do with any other object, like an NFT at that point.
You could replace these games with poker chips that have the letters A through Z on them, and if you told people that they were worth something, it could literally be anything. You could swap out anything.
That's what bothers me the most about these this set of people that have come into this literally 2 years. People that before 2 years ago, a lot of them didn't know video game collecting was a thing to be concerned about. Or it wasn't worth their time. It literally wasn't, or else they would have got into it.
Right.
Inorganic versus organic growth. Video game collecting was organic. It happened slowly. It developed since really the 80s over time. This high-end graded game collecting has not been organic at all. It's been thrust upon and gamed. The system has been gamed through these Pawn Stars appearances and from 3 or 4 choice big articles on like New York Times and other sites, Kotaku, that really cast a super positive light on this to get people interested. And that's what's so bothersome and dangerous about this, to put a finer point on it.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Let's see what else he said, Ian. Chum just throws out $100,000. It's not out of the question. Like, how does Chum know that? Not out of the question. Like, how can you cavalierly say that about it? I don't understand that. I just don't.
Yeah, it's weird. And like I said, that's the biggest change from, I think, the last time this was covered, was just the from cautionary to throw it to the wind. Who knows what this is worth?
And Chum was a part of that last segment with the Sun. It was both of them that were there. That's what's so weird about it. So I don't believe in coincidences, Ian. And people say there's coincidences. I do and I don't. There was something weird that happened with the timing of this segment. If you look at the current Heritage Auctions games for sale, Ian, would you be shocked if I told you there were sealed Mike Tyson's Punch-Outs for sale?
Gasp.
Right now on Heritage Auctions?
Gasp.
You would be gasping.
Gasping.
So there's two. A game and item so rare that 100,000 easily, that there's 2 right now for sale at the same time. And there's been multiple sealed Mike Tyson's Punch-Outs for sale over the past year. And then, yes, some have gone. I think there's one for 50,000 or so. There's 2 right now. One with 2 days left is a 9.0, is at 14 grand with 2 days left. And the other, a better condition one than this, is at a 9.6 with at $27,000. The cynic in me says that they probably timed this knowing that this episode was going to come out. The people at Heritage knew this. That's why this is so bothersome. Everyone talks to everyone for this.
Yeah, this is not a big scene. No. You could probably put the people who actually make moves in this, the people who are actively involved in this, you could probably fit them all in a fucking restaurant dining room.
Yeah, I think it's been accurate from what I've known that there's like online collecting groups for all these high-end collectors. It's probably not more than 200 people, 250. These are not a lot of people. Again, if I would know from going to these conventions if there were a lot of people, they're not. At these conventions at like Too Many Games or Portland, they're not like all over the place. You can point them out. That's a sealed collector. That's an investor. You can point them out.
Sure. They're
not all over the place. So yeah, I'm not angry or set up about a segment like this. It's just not something that is good for these people in general. It's not good for someone looking to get into it, because for the people looking to get into it, you're already on the tail, could be on the tail end of this, over the the valuation of this. And then Dennis from Awada shows up as the expert for the third time, which is, again, he admits though that, hey, yeah, we graded this when it came through. We graded this collection of games from this guy. And again, it's highly unethical to say things like, in quotes, Ian, this grading makes it really desirable for collectors, and also saying, I would be very comfortable valuing it at the 70 to 80,000 range. It is extremely unethical for the person running the grading company to say these things. He should have no involvement at all in trying to value an item.
Agreed.
Because he's tied up in that market. He makes money because people think it's worth this amount of money.
Yes, agreed.
Other experts sometimes don't say that. They'll just say, okay, yeah, I verified it. This is a real historical document. I don't know what it's worth, but it's real. And then they get out. But then that wouldn't make the story.
Right. Use my service and you can get lots of money.
Potentially, right? But then it can be weird to say, oh yeah, no, it's authentic because my company graded it. Here, bye. Like that. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
It should be it should be, in theory, an impartial third party. But is there someone impartial at this point? It's either someone that says pie in the sky or someone like me that says you're crazy. Well, would there be someone impartial?
It just goes back to what we said earlier. It's not big enough.
It's not big enough to have an outsider looking in and be like, okay, what's really going on? It's not been around for 10, 20, 30 years to say, historically, this is what happens with this. We don't know. As I look at my Mike Tyson's Punch-Out standee in the corner. Hey, Mike, what do you think about all this? Your game being sold for tens of thousands. Did you get any from Nintendo laying around to get graded, Mike? Anything going on?
Muting my phone.
Oh.
It's doing too much buzzing on my thigh.
But this will be the reality going forward. This is going to show up now on Pawn Stars, this stuff, the same way you get like high-end art pieces showing up. It's going to be probably something like this. But yeah, caution, everyone. Caution. Caution. But then again, the people that can throw tens of thousands of dollars around have it to lose, probably. They probably to take that sort of big of a risk. It's a fun thing. It's a Nintendo game. I remember that. I'm going to spend $50,000 on one, and maybe I'll make money on it. That's what it is. It's a fun hobby.
Sure.
Anything else to add?
No.
Oh, okay. I feel like I dominated that segment with my spiel.
It's
Oh,
painful.
it's painful to you? So listen to me, or just watching the clip?
No, just the clip, and yeah, I don't know.
I put a bow on it.
I'm in a mood this week.
You are in a mood.